Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up here on Landy's Crypto Corner powered by the Gokhshtein News Network. Today is July 11th, 2025. And would you look at that? We have new all-time highs. Well, that's fun. Well, we did have a new all-time high when we last spoke on Wednesday, but now we actually have closing new all-time highs, and we do have expansion on the daily time frame. So we're going to talk about what to look for on the dailies and what to look for on the weekly, especially over this weekend for closes, and kind of what to expect coming up next if things continue to play out in this beautifully bullish fashion. So here today, you might remember I pointed out that Bitcoin had put in a nice higher low and held the low side daily wick here or swing at 107 250 to 270. It's 268 here on spot, but it's right around that area on most charts. And we saw on Wednesday the new all-time high with a closing new all-time high up here. So I got to walk back what I said earlier. It was a new closing all-time high, but we didn't get the breakout, I'm sorry, above the upper second standard deviation at 112. But we closed inside of the 112 region, right? So we had the new all-time high at 112, 152 or something along those lines. And what I wanted to see was closes above 112. We got that in the very next candle. And you may remember that I said that I was looking at a closing range between 112 and 115 with swings coming in around 117 to 118 as a possibility. But if we saw Bitcoin close above 115, then 118 to 120 was on the board. And we did get a swing into the 118 to 120 area up here as of the Friday candle. Of course, it's still Friday for me, but the Saturday session is now open. We got a swing up to 118,909. So essentially $119,000, splitting the difference of what I was looking for up here. And you can see that the upper second standard deviation is now, upper second's down here. Upper third is up here. I'm a little discombobulated. I'm too excited about all this price action. And in this case, we can see that the upper third here is right around 119,900. So basically $120,000. So that is still the primary area overhead. And in this case, there's a few different ways in which we can derive where price action might head next. But I'm going to walk up the time frames first to kind of really drive home the point of what we want to see occur on closes, not just on the daily, but moving into the 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, 5-day into the weekly. All right. And then we'll talk about the weekly, but we'll continue to talk about the daily. As it stands right now, there is no high, right? It's just higher highs up here. And until we get a higher high close, this is going to be the area to pay attention to the downside. So when we do see a higher high close, this is the last higher low consolidation down here. And it's kind of a zone of interest now. And we can take the close open to the swings there, which is in one of our key levels, that 106 to 109, 360. Some might have it, 106 to 110 with, kind of splitting it in two, 106 to 108, 108 to 110, much like I was doing. But in terms of a larger zone on the daily, it was 106, 100 something to 109, 360. And in this case, we have a zone of interest to the downside as the last higher low. Now, of course, this would be to break trend. There is areas that it could come down to that are much higher, including these highs over here from 112 to, essentially 109 on the top side here to kind of encompass this high right here as well as an area of interest if Bitcoin did correct. But this move is still ongoing. So really, the reason why I'm pointing out the last higher low is because this is where trend would break if we saw closes below it. And that's essentially 108 to 107, 270, right? And as long as Bitcoin's above there, we're more likely, wherever this high comes in, whether it's here or higher, to see higher low or equal low structure from there. And then we evaluate that higher low or potentially equal low from there. So move is ongoing, and this is actually pretty important that the move is ongoing. If we look at our in trend, we are well out of the realm of potential bearish divergences now. No matter where it closes up here, yes, is there historical bearish divergence that would still populate as bearish divergence? Yes, it is not quite as it's not quite as powerful as in trend bearish divergence, and we don't have the potential for that right now. So this move is in progress from that regard. And if we look at BBWP, even though it is on the chart down there, you can see that this is a move in progress, and it's got legs. Now, one of the things that I will say is if we don't see continuation to the upside over the weekend, that might blunt some of the volatility's momentum and, of course, price momentum. So just understand that that's where we could potentially see a high be formed on a closing basis. Right now, as it stands on the daily, the only way we're going to see a high formed is if we see closes below 115.211. And this is going to be pretty relevant, I think, across timeframes as we begin to move up the timeframes here. But as long as Bitcoin is closing above 116.350, we'll call it, by the upper second standard deviation, this is still a very volatile move, and has the potential to start moving up to some of the areas like the upper third and hitting that 120 area. Possibly even above. We're going to find some more targets here in a little bit. We'll come back to that in a little bit here. We see the daily is in the overbought zone for a regular stochastic momentum indicator. This is not a Stoch RSI. This is measuring close over close price momentum. So it is still pointed back to the upside here. What is the pivot? It's going to be 114.700. So essentially between the low side that would set a high here at 115.211. If we did see a high set, you're likely going to see, obviously we'd be below the upper second here if we did see a high set below this yesterday or Friday's swing low. We would also likely see momentum start to shift, right? And then maybe paint a little bit more of a corrective picture on the daily. But even above the upper first here, the 112, almost 113 region, things look fine. And of course, above the basis, even better. No matter what, if it's above the basis, it's in the bullish half of the bands and looks really good. So I would say even better if it's above the upper second. But at some point, we will see the bands outrun as soon as price starts to get print any red dailies. Looks really good right now. Would have liked to have seen it occur a little bit earlier in the week to see how the bulls could continue the push. We'll see what the weekend holds for us. We've seen some volatile weekends, and we've seen people taking advantage of lower term time frames over the weekend before CME Open to kind of and the professionals not really in the market actively, lower liquidity, that kind of stuff. In this case, we'll see what this weekend holds for us, whether we're going to keep going to the upside or if we kind of stall out here. Potential still, we're right in the thick of it. That one, we fell out of the 118, but overhead area of interest is going to be 118 to 120 and from the daily perspective. And if we start closing above there, those targets get raised into, I would say, the 122 area. But we're going to look at a few more time frames here. So let's get rid of this. Move is in progress, so we're not really going to show, I'm not really weird, like I'm more than one person. I'm not really going to show like support and resistance areas of interest right now. It's not really worth it until we find an actual daily high. 2-day is in progress. Expansion, you see BBWP is green, 48 over 17, looking good. Close above the upper second. That's 116 now, so we need to see that continue. This is a new day candle. We even got a close above the upper third, indicating very high volatility. The upper second is here. We typically see the biggest moves in the overbought and oversold zone for a regular Stoch. Looks really good. Pivot's probably going to be a little bit kinder than the daily. No, it's actually 115. So if we see 115 drop, then this is likely going to, at minimum, get a correction even from the 2-day perspective. 3-day, just getting rolling. Close above the upper second and upper third. We've got the upper second by 115.5. So again, we're pointing right back to that 115. We kind of want to see continuation on the Saturday and Sunday sessions. And we just opened this 3-day candle. Nice breakout, blue skies. Upper third's around 120. And actually, where's the 2-day upper third? 120. So again, we're getting confluence across these time frames. 3-day we just did. 4-day. We are now in expansion posture, and we do have BBWP up over the moving average. We did get a nice close open above the upper second, and the upper second has now moved up as we have a new 4-day session open now with this Saturday candle that is open. That's going to be basically right where price is, 117.5. And then we start getting into some targets that might be interesting to the upside. And that is the upper third right there at about $123,000. So if we start seeing 120 kind of area get tested, we start to swing above. Now I'd look probably about 120 to 122, probably 123 on the cards by the upper third. If we start getting above there, it's going to be 125 and then very quickly 128 to 130. We see 121 is going to be the upper second on the 5-day. We have 3 days to go for the 5-day session close. So that'll be closing on, what is this? It's going to be Monday, Tuesday time frame. And then, of course, we have the weekly upper second right there at 120. So, again, we have very key levels overhead. You see the upper third is in position up there, now at $131,000, right around a major Fibonacci extension for a log scale fib. And there's actually, there are more fibs that you can pull, but the log scale fib is what lines up with the macro fib from prior cycle. And it lines up perfectly with a 41.4% or a 1414 above the areas of interest. So last cycle, the $69,000 high to $15,000 low, if you were to put extensions on that, the 41.4% is going to give you $128,000. The most recent higher low on the monthly will also give you that same 414 or 1414 Fibonacci extension off of the local structure on log scale, giving us the same exact zone at 128. So 128 to $130,000 very, very much in the cards. Now, if you want to pull the local and you don't want to use a log scale fib extension, you can turn off the log scale on your chart here and then go to the fib, and you can see that there are some levels of interest. Oh, actually, you know what? I have to turn it back on. Sorry. And then turn it off through the indicator. I forgot about that. Turn off log scale, and we can get some intermediate term time frame stuff, right? So on log scale, the lows sat right on a 786 of a retracement for log scale. Didn't quite get that accuracy within the range for linear scale here, but you can see that we tagged the 1272 extension on linear scale at 118. You see the 1414 has confluence at about 123 to 124. $1,000, and then a 1.618 at 130. So what you're looking for when you switch between log and linear is you're looking for confluences. In this case, I usually advise people to use log scale even as you're going down the time frame, and then check linear. And the reason why is because as you get to the lower term time frames, log scale and linear aren't going to be very different. On the weekly, they will be a little bit different, but you can find the areas of interest and where they line up with, in this case, volatility levels of interest being very much relevant. So, you know, if we were to turn on log scale here for the price action, it's not going to change the fibs. But in this case, we can see that there's, you know, we perfectly hit that 1272. Not something that I usually show on the videos, but I do talk about some of the intermediate term time frame stuff. But that's more of a daily target for me. What I'm looking at is, of course, the log fib for an expansive move above in this case, 1272 is at 121.5. It's kind of putting us in that area. Start trading above 120 to 123 is very much in the cards. We start trading above there. 125 because it's an even number, but realistically, we're looking at that 1414, $128,000 If we start to crack above there, there's a 1618 locally here at around $138,000 to $140,000, depending on the chart that you're charting, or what exchange you're charting. If you're to turn that off, you'll find that we essentially get the same areas with the 1786 and 1888 up there. So really, you're going to find the confluences. It's just going to give you a different picture. And then it's up to you to determine like where you find the most confluences with those areas. And in this case, for more macro time frames like this, one of the major confluences that I've been stressing for a long time is the 1414 from the local structure. That's the monthly higher low that we have in. So the previous high to the higher low, that 1414, of course, matches up so beautifully with our prior cycle 1414, right there at $128,000. Such a beautiful thing. And of course, the monthly gave us our edge anyway. We closed above the 1272. So looking at that longer term time frame fib extensions, we've got 128 to that 1618 up there. If we start to close above it on the monthly, that's absolutely a target, but there is intermediate targets in between. So, it's 173, almost 174. You could call it 173 to 175. Essentially, we can refine, and we'll begin to refine in the next few videos where price could go in the more immediate time frames, like the daily, and we can use some local fib pull structure for that. We can switch between linear and log. It was predicated on people that were listening to a space that I was on this morning, and then asking me like, "Hey, you use log or linear?" And I typically will show log because my videos are keeping it just kind of straightforward for everybody and not getting into the weeds. And then I will tell you the levels that I'm looking for. But I do switch between the two for those that were asking. But I rely on the confluences between the two. And I just try not to clutter the screen up for everyone that's watching. Now, as we were moving up the time frames, we have confluences on areas. So essentially above where we are now, 118 to 120 is the main area that I'm looking at. If we start to see closures above that, 120 to 123, very viable. Anywhere above there, 123 to 125 is on the cards. And then obviously you could just call it 125 to 130. Like that's the main area overhead. We definitely want to see higher term time frames cracking above there. And then we just await, closes maintaining above that 115. If we see it dropped, we'll get a local high, and then just we can look back to supports 112 to essentially 109, and then trend doesn't break for this move, at least from where things are right now, until we see close below 107, 107 270 on the daily. For the weekly, what do we need to see? Well, bulls would love to see a close above 120, because from a volatility standpoint, that gives us a range up to that 1414, 128 to 130, potentially more, right? Potentially more. You can see that this is going to move up no matter what now, in my opinion, on this Sunday. It's currently at 131.6 because remember, this was at 130 earlier in the week before Bitcoin decided to liquidate all the bears in the local region. And closing above the upper second especially would significantly expand that upper third. And you can see that when Bitcoin wants to do it, it can get above even that upper third standard deviation. So we are coming from bands that were expanding a bit to the downside, in a little bit wider set than what we saw the last time. So I would just be very, very aware of the upper second, upper third standard deviation. We nearly hit the upper second there at 120. But, I wouldn't necessarily look for it to run outside of the upper third, like immediately, because it's in such a major area. And if it did, I'd probably be looking for a wick or a swing, and then come back to it later. And from the weekly standpoint, as long as we're holding above 98,225 on swings and that 101, looking great. Looks good to go. Now, what I will say is, we're in a compression phase above the basis band here, and the only way to really kick this back up would be consistent closes. I'd want to see closes back above the upper second, so 120 to really start ripping to the upside. and get volatility back over the moving average. Otherwise, this turns into, a grind where we have to watch that lower first, which right now is at the 108,350. It has moved up since we last talked about it. I believe it was 108 even, or maybe even 107 and a half. I don't quite remember from the Monday video, but yeah, looks good. And I am enjoying it, and I hope you are too. Hopefully, this will bleed over to alts for all the folks that are in alts. We have seen some good price action being picked up here on the ETH chart, and I did mention on stages today that I would take a look at ETH on the weekly. What you want to see is this lower high and higher low structure, which we did see a close on above that 2550. We've now gotten the 27 to 3K reclaim, at least on the daily. And it's trying to sit, it's actually more like 2930. So I really want to see Ethereum hold this zone on any retraces or any corrections. And that's 2700 basically to the top side where it's testing now, and the mid 2900 area. Looks good if it can do that. Looks even better if it can close a weekly above here. Keep in mind though, this is like prime setup for bears. That doesn't mean it's going to play out that way. We're seeing a structural change, so don't get too excited, bears. But might lead to, even if we start to see price head up some more, might lead to some heavy profit taking. So what you want to see if you're bulls is you want to see a close above essentially 2930. So we'll refine that, not say 3K. 2930 is kind of gives it some room on a close, but you do want to see closes above there by Sunday. Even better though if you get above $3,000 here, right? Closes above 3K, gonna look pretty damn good. Now we did already get a swing into this order block candle over here, but this is such a major support level. Bulls, you need to reclaim it, and then you need to hold on any tests down to 2700, especially on the higher term time frames. Could like one shot wicks get down to where this consolidation high was? Sure, but things look pretty good for ETH right now. But this is going against the volatility setup here, and we need to see this start to go back into a compression while holding key levels, and maybe even get some more room away and start getting into the deeper 3,500, 3,800 area right around the upper third to start going and testing maybe the 4K level, and then coming back down and compressing and then trying to blast off through the highs. If it just races straight towards it, it's going to be fraught with tears when it starts to correct. So looks good for ETH though here. ETH BTC was picking its ass up off the floor, and ETH can do some crazy things when it wants to. So I wouldn't fade it even if you don't like ETH. 2730 is going to be the pivot on the weekly. I believe we're going to see that, of course, now get closed above, and that would be the bottom side of this yellow support here. Looks good. Daily looks like daily could put in a high. Right, daily could put in a high potentially below 2913. So just be aware of that. It's not like game over or anything. It's got a little nice reclaim of a key area. So, again, it's showing me the same range. This is also the upper second. You want to see this hold and start pushing into 3,200 on the daily for Ethereum. And then start to, if it does start to correct, just hold that 2,700. And like I said, one shots down to like the 26 and 2550 are fine, but it needs to get bought right back up into the 2,700 area. And the last high or low that you can mark on your chart for this one is actually pretty far away. So it has room. It's 2475. So it has room to correct before breaking trend. But you don't want to see a trend shift at the highs. You want to see it come down, hit some key levels. If it does put an high, if it stops here, for instance, you want to see it come down and then bounce and take out its most recent high. Of course, that's coming in for yesterday at $3,040. So that would start to look really good on the daily. Of course, coming into the weekly close, that would look great. But even holding here would look really good for the bulls. But don't expect like straight up moon time. I'm telling you. If it did, expect massive rejections. I've been wrong before, but the band setup does not. It favors more consolidation and just watch Bitcoin for corrections, and then we'll see if Ethereum can actually make some progress. I would love to see Ethereum like actually go rip to like 4K and then correct, and correct to some of these key levels and hold them as support over a longer term time frame, like a weekly, and then that would be a beautiful setup for a potential move to the highs and maybe a run from there. So we'll probably maybe revisit this on Monday as well. And I'm just going to look at Ethereum for right now because, as I mentioned many times, Ethereum's what's going to kick off alt season. I know some disagree, but Ethereum has to be the one that kicks off alt season. It's just, if you go over here and you just look at Ethereum's market cap, understand that this is going to take a bigger bite than three of any of the XRP, BNB, Sol combined. You need Ethereum to come along and play, and it's the biggest mover. That would be what you'd want to see cannibalizing Bitcoin dominance, and that otherwise it's just mini alt season after mini alt season, which you can absolutely trade, make a lot of money in. So, but in earnest, need to see Ethereum get above its all-time high and higher and really cannibalize Bitcoin dominance with the rest. So that's going to be it for me today. A little bit of a longer one, but we've got brand new all-time highs, and I'm feeling good. Feeling good about price action. I like where things are. We'll see what happens in the coming days over the weekend, and then I will talk to you again on Monday. And I wish you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe and have a great weekend. With all that said, Landy out. Take care.